Good morning from the second age of reason. I have meant to put this one into video for a long time. The weather has been pretty bad, but I think some things need to be said because society is going in certain ways that maybe we want to rethink it. This is in regards to some shooting that took place, and they found the shooter's cell phones. I think they were Apple iPhones, and they wanted to break into them to find out who were on their contacts list or what was in there, if there was any special apps or programs or anything like that, to help figure out if there was more risk to be had. And so they, at one point, tried, I think, to get into the phone unsuccessfully, and then they knew that the phone would self-destruct if they tried any more, and so they wanted Apple Corporation to try and break into it, or give them a backdoor operating system so that they could get in and do whatever they want in that. However, in that case, once you do it once, it breaks it for all. So that brought a number of things to the forefront, and let's take some of these things for what the implications are. For one thing, it's Apple, and this is their main product, the iPhone, and the security of their product is one of the selling points of the product, which is probably premium price compared to other cell phones. So putting a trapdoor in there is diluting their product and making it more susceptible, more at risk. And you know that once somebody puts a trapdoor in, somebody else will find it. And sure, it was for our government, which had honorable intentions, but what other governments would want into that as well, and what's to stop them as well, which totally will invalidate the idea of security on your cell phones. So, I think there were also a number of American Constitution problems with it. So I will just go through some of those and enumerate them. The First Amendment was at risk because Apple would likely be required to say that the trapdoor is harmless and justified, or to say it's not even there at all when it really is. I applaud the CEO of Apple for pushing back for a change. But would he have pushed back if it hadn't been for Mr. Snowden's revelations? Now everybody's kind of being watched more closely, aren't they? Also, the Third Amendment, because Apple would likely be required to put this special software in their phones. Essentially, that's like putting U.S. forces or housing U.S. forces, and the Third Amendment has to do with Americans giving room and board to U.S. forces, which I might interpret as well as putting U.S. government software in your devices, especially if it's mandatory and required. The Fourth Amendment, which has to do with due process. The code makes it easy to bypass the due process, so easy that it's very tempting. And then you have this thing where people go and they get the warrants later, when normally you're supposed to have a reasonable suspicion or due cause, and then you get the warrant. So things are a little out of order in terms of the Fourth Amendment. In the Fifth Amendment, freedom from self-incrimination. Also, the 13th Amendment, involuntary servitude, by requiring Apple to write this software, and if Apple doesn't want to write it, but no, Apple will have to write it. So that's another conflict of interest there. And the 14th Amendment of due process before depriving of property. Of course, you probably have to define the property in terms of a person's communications and metadata and content and all that. So Microsoft has also been pushing back a little bit too now, because if Apple did it, why should Microsoft be such a lapdog as well? So that's coming into play. And this seemed to be all the rage a few months ago. However, a famous computer expert, McAfee, has said he would be willing to crack the phone for them anytime, free of charge. I don't think they took him up on that. Other people have said that they already had the talent to crack the phone themselves, which I have heard they have finally done. So this whole kerfuffle was totally unnecessary in the first place. But I'm just thinking you need to be on your guard, especially with your government, about privacy issues and the rule of law in the Constitution, and that in cases you say, oh, it's a really serious case, that you can just bypass your Constitution and the laws to have things expedite faster. I'm not sure. Well, maybe we are sure, but you need to stand up for that sort of thing. So I thought I would just bring this to your attention at this point, and that is all I have for now. So until later, we'll be seeing you.